record. Okay, welcome to Art 116 afternoon section. We're wrapping up the week here. It's nice to see everybody. Thanks for coming. Um, I was unable to upload a video from Wednesday because my computer froze up, and when I had to restart the computer, I had lost both the afternoon and morning class videos that I had recorded before I was able to upload them to YouTube. So I'm going to do it again. Oh no, I'm not going to do that again, but I'm going to upload this one today, and I'm going to have to repeat my demonstration a little bit on the color wheel. So I've got lots to do today, at least 3 things to try to do today. Let's see what to do first. I think I'm going to screen share. And so I'm checking you guys to see if you have any mics open and you want to ask me a question. I'm checking the chat box to see if anybody's typed in anything. I'm going straight to my screen share. And Mary, you're going to be so amazed because I'm going to pick on you. I thought I would share a couple of these projects that we did for the graphic design thing. So I just wanted to oh, look at that. You did several. Okay, fantastic. I haven't been in this yet. I just kind of started going through this. So this is great. I'm going to minimize this. And I'd like to increase the size of this if possible. Yeah, no, yeah, come on, there we go. Okay, so a really nice photograph here, and a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America was the right to protest for rights. Oh my gosh, that's really cool. And it's quite a striking nighttime photograph of a protester on his or her knees in front of a line of police. So that's really cool. And since the line of police is kind of in a horizontal line in the background, I like that you're running the text as a horizontal line across the bottom of the page. I like that it's in a reverse text because the words police are also in reverse text on the riot shields up above. So there's a lot of interesting things going on in there. Even the Nike swoosh on the backpack, is kind of just a little check mark that checks us in to this thing. Really interesting. Does anybody else want to chime in or have an opinion on this one? I don't know if you were picking up on all of those subtle little graphic design ideas that I was just kind of ticking off there, but there's a lot of good stuff happening in this graphic design. I'm going to scroll down and try to see what's on the next page because I thought I saw something on the next page. Oh my gosh, there are many pages here. Look at all this stuff.
I just did a bunch of them. I didn't really have time to pick a certain one, so I just kind of gave them all to you.
Well, this is fine. This is good. Again, a horizontal image with a horizontal line of people making a very horizontal element in the composition with the vertical element of the Capitol dome in the background. You picked up on that cruciform kind of design that was in the Selma movie poster that I was showing during the first week of class. And then we have had enough from Michael Jordan, of all people. Very nice. So you went and found other quotes to kind of mix and match with all of this. This is cool. Okay, in reverse text with a black outline applied to the text so that you've got white with a black outline. And I bet that really shows up a lot better than either just the white reverse text or black text. The white with a black outline is really the way to go when you've got a really busy background that you're trying to run text over the top of. Good for you.
I had a question too,
Yeah.
from whenever it was I was last able to attend class. So I know you talked about if you have the white text, putting the black outline with it. So what if you have a text with color? Do you use that same color but a darker shade, or do you use black with that as well? How would that work?
You can play with all kinds of outlines around text, and they can be just about any color. And the graphic designer just has to try them all. Usually if you can find a contrasting color. So we're going to get into the ideas of color complements and how colors contrast with each other. And I'm just looking through here. There's a lot of well, there's black pants, there's blue pants, there's lots of uh, white people legs, and then there's the guy with the khaki pants in the middle. So I'm just trying to think if there was an actual color that would go over the top of all of those. You know, maybe an orange outline. Um, you just have to try them and see, because it's kind of all about legibility, and sometimes unless you're trying it and you can see the results, I can't really tell you. You ran a red outline around your text box here, and that kind of shows up in an interesting way that I didn't really expect. I never really expect to see a thin outline around the text box superimposed on top of the image, and yet that has a really kind of a interesting minimal effect too. It creates another horizontal image. It brings in the color red, which we've talked about before as being about passion and violence and that kind of stuff in a minimal kind of a way. It doesn't feel so super violent to me. It certainly picks up on the red of the t-shirt on the guy in the front of the line there. So that's cool. So that's an interesting, and that's a very minimal graphic design element. That 1 point outline applied in red around the text box is really cool. That's good. That's about all the time I've got to look at some of these today, because I got to go look at other stuff too. So I got to stop this share for a minute and come right back to you guys again. Good job. I wanted to just touch on that because we didn't really get a chance to do any critiquing of the projects that came in. Most of the projects came in. I think only 1 or 2 people from each class didn't get a chance to turn in their projects. So I have gone in and I have reopened the deadline. I've extended the due date so that you've got through the weekend and into early next week to turn in upload a project for assignment number 1. So please get that done for anybody within earshot who didn't get a chance to do that yet. Let me go right back into my screen share, because then I've got another thing to screen share with you guys. And please feel free to ask me questions at any point here. So, but you're going to have to be loud so that I can hear you over the top of my own thoughts and as I'm talking here. So this is my general PowerPoint presentation that I give to try to do an intro to color theory. And it's not great. It's a lot of the slides out of the textbook imagery, which is just fine. Your text starts out in chapter 7, talking about an introduction to color theory, light being the source of color, and artist color mixing, and the physical properties of color are like the 3 things dealt with in the first 3 or 4 pages of chapter 7. And so most of us in a high school or even grade school science class have seen the idea expressed of white light shining through a glass prism and being refracted into the different colors of the rainbow. And we always see the colors of the rainbow in the same color, in the same order, and that kind of thing. When the light enters the glass prism, it's bent, it is refracted. Red light has the longer wavelength. This is the part that I've never quite understood, that has a longer wavelength and is refracted less. So, you know, as an aside, I always thought that red light had slightly less energy to it, and so I thought it would be refracted more, while the violet light tending towards the ultraviolet has a little bit higher energy wavelength of light. I thought it would be refracted less. For some reason, it's flipped in this idea of refracted light through the prism. So that just has always been an interesting thing that I've noticed, but I'm probably making you guys confused by saying these things. Violet light has the shortest wavelength and is refracted the most. Each color of light is refracted according to its own wavelength, producing a spectrum of individual color bands. And so this is how we first see all of the constituent colors of light and we see it in a rainbow and other natural phenomenon like that. And there's the photograph of it that shows white light going through a prism. So your authors in this chapter talk about additive color, the idea of the colors of light that can be added together to make white light. So the colors of the spectrum are pure and represent the greatest intensity of color. The mixing of the additive primaries. Now, I want to make sure that I am really emphasizing additive primaries here, because this is not what I'm going to talk about for the rest of the quarter. The additive primary colors are red, blue, and green light, represented by red, blue, and green on this slide. And in fact, we are seeing slide projectors showing those three colors of light. And when those three colors of light are combined, when they overlap, they produce white light in the middle. And the secondary colors of additive of the additive color process, and that's dealing with light again. The secondary colors are magenta, cyan, and yellow, and those are the three areas where we've got yellow is being created when green and red light overlap each other, and they create the secondary color of yellow over here. The cyan is this light blue over here, created by green and blue light overlapping. And finally, the magenta is created by the red and the blue light overlapping right here. Now, I'm saying all of this because we want to be exposed to the idea of additive color process and the theory of additive colors. And now we are going to walk away from that, because for the rest of this quarter, when I'm dealing with paint and pigments, we're going to be talking about the subtractive color theory and the subtractive color process. But this is the additive color process. And there's going to be one sneaky question on our midterm quiz about additive color. So I want you guys to be aware of additive color and the primary colors of additive color. But we're never going to talk about this again until we get that one question on the midterm quiz. So you've been warned. Subtractive color is the thing where I'm going to sit the most, because the printing industry, all of the arts, everything that deals with pigments, whether it's the fashion industry or upholstery that goes onto furniture, and the colors of carpeting and everything else, the whole paint industry for interior and exterior colors for house paint, everything deals with a subtractive color process, because we're dealing with pigments. And so we're going to pretty much focus on that for the rest of the quarter, and our color wheel is going to be based on the subtractive color process wheel. So how do we see color reflected from an object? Well, a green leaf appears green because the leaf reflects only green light back to the observer, absorbing all the other colors into the material of the leaf. When we see the color reflected from an object, we are experiencing subtractive color, because the object subtracts away all of the other colors, reflecting only one color back to our eyes. That's the theory anyway. And so now we get to start to build our own color wheel. And so this solid equilateral triangle here with the solid black line is our primary colors, yellow, red, and blue, like I was talking about last time. The dotted line, the upside down equilateral triangle, represents the secondary colors in the color wheel, orange, violet, and green. And so those are our six basic colors, 3 primaries and 3 secondaries. Each color triangle is a triad, and we're going to be using the word triad later on in the quarter. So this is our first look at color triads that are related to each other. The primary triad are the primary colors, the secondary triad are the secondary colors. Okay. Moving on. Now, so in this slide, we see the primary colors have been replaced by their names: yellow, orange, red, violet, blue, green. The names are around the color. And in between the primary and secondary colors on the color wheel are the intermediate colors. So these are our intermediates. And an intermediate color is when you mix together the primary color with its adjacent secondary color, gives you the intermediate color. And the colors are named using the primary color is named first, and then the secondary color named second to make the name of the intermediate color. So the one that my cursor is on right now is yellow-orange because yellow and orange make it. Yellow is the primary color, so it comes first. Then we've got red-orange over here. Red is the primary color mixed with orange to give you a red-orange, and so forth. We have red-violet here. We've got blue-violet over here. We've got blue-green over here. And we've got a yellow-green up here. Always the primary color name comes first, and then the secondary color second to give you the name of the intermediate color. Now, I know that that was about like drinking from a fire hose, and I'm really sorry about that. But that gives us an idea of the color wheel. And so when we put in all the colors, we've got our primary colors in the color wheel, yellow, red, and blue. We've got our secondary triad of colors, orange, violet, and green. We've got the 6 intermediate colors, and all of the colors around the outside of the color wheel are the most intense colors that you can get. They're the most color saturated versions of those colors. As we move inward on this particular color wheel, we're looking at the tertiary colors. Oh my gosh, that's the 4th kind of color, basically, tertiary colors. And so when I'm looking at this color combination of yellow and violet across the color wheel from each other, this tertiary color right here, the first one in from yellow, is yellow with just a little teeny bit of violet added to it to neutralize that color just a little bit. As we add a little bit more violet to the color, it gets a little tiny bit more neutralized as a yellow. And finally, when you put equivalent amounts of the yellow and violet together, you get a brown. And the theory is that any color complement pair, when they are mixed together in the proper amounts, will give you a brown. A neutralized color in the middle will always be completely neutralized as a brown. Orange and blue, when they are mixed together, they neutralize together and make a brown. So all of these colors on the inside of the color wheel are neutralized versions of colors, and you can see that they seem to be a little bit more mellow. They are really wonderful for using in industry because they really help colors go together quite a bit more. Neutralized colors harmonize much better with bright colors and with other colors than the full spectrum intensity colors on the outside of the color wheel. When we are painters and we are painting a painting, we use somewhat neutralized colors quite a bit to make the painting harmonize better, to make all of the pieces and parts of the painting harmonize with the other pieces and parts of the painting, so nothing stands out in too much contrast with anything else. And we save our full spectrum intensity colors for that one special part of the painting that you want to be the focal point, that you really want to stand out. That's where you use your full spectrum intensity colors in a painting, in a print that you may be putting together for fabric design or upholstery design. So the world is filled with neutralized colors, and you're going to actually see in industry and in most of the things that are available produced that we don't actually use very often the full spectrum intensity colors. We use tertiary colors a lot in industry. I'm going to leave it there for now because I need to go someplace else with this presentation. So I'm back now. Hi, I'm back. So that's the first couple of pages of chapter 7, kind of dealing with an introduction to the color wheel. And so I need to do a little bit more of a demonstration with painting a color wheel today because my first color wheel demonstration was lost. And so I'm going to change screens to my, which one is it? This one, maybe. No, it's never that one. It's always the other one. Okay, so I'm going to change to a different camera. So I'm now on my tabletop. So once again, I need to do this for the people who haven't been here before and haven't seen me actually do this. This is our first actual color project. It's project number 2. It's doing a color wheel. I'm asking you guys to either print out this color wheel because now it's attached to the color wheel project, project number 2, or come over here and get it off of my tables that are right outside my door here. I put a stack of color wheel templates on the table outside my door that you can pick up. But anyway, I would like you guys to be able to print this out on cardstock because cardstock is so much more durable for painting on than just paper, than just computer paper. And so we started this demonstration last time, and we're trying to only, I've got paints falling over here. We're trying only to do this color wheel with only our primary colors. The theory is that you can mix all the other colors from the 3 primary colors. And so we're trying to prove that theory by using yellow, red, and blue. And then when we're mixing yellow and red, we get the oranges. We get yellow, orange, orange, and red, orange between yellow and red just by mixing various amounts and carefully calibrating them and putting them into their appropriate spots on the color wheel. We want yellow orange to be yellow orange, and so that there's a nice incremental step between yellow and yellow orange and orange. I need the orange to be orange so that there is an incremental step between orange and yellow for yellow orange to be. We want this to not be too orange so that these are nice incremental steps and so that these colors don't get too close to each other. So we make an orange, then we put a bunch of yellow into half of that puddle and make a yellow orange. And we also put a little bit of red into the other half of that puddle to make a red orange so that we get the incremental color steps. It's the same thing from red over to blue. And what I said before is that this is the hardest part of the color wheel to do because it's lower key. It's really easy to get these colors muddied up so that they don't look as vibrant as we'd like them to be. But when you mix red and blue together, you get violet. When you put a little bit more red in half of that puddle, you should be able to get a red violet. When you put a lot more blue into that puddle, you should be able to get a blue violet. And so we want to get incremental color changes from red to blue to get to our secondary and primary, secondary, and intermediate colors across here. So we're going to do it one more time for the greens. This part of the color wheel is where the greens live. And so we're going to mix up some paint here. Red comes out of the picture. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow on my palette. The palettes are also available for you guys to pick up on my table outside my door so that you have something to mix paint on. And so I've got my paint brush that's all cleaned out from this morning's demonstration so I can do it again. And so I'm going to grab a bunch of yellow and put it into a puddle between the yellow and the blue. And then I'm going to take a little bit of blue, just a little bit of blue, not too much. I'm going to have to clean some off because it's not equal amounts of yellow and blue. It's going to be equivalent amounts of yellow and blue to make a green. This particular yellow and this particular blue make a horrible green, but I'm going to try it and see what happens. This green is kind of nasty. It looks a little yellow to me, so I'm now going to pull a little bit more blue in here and try to make this green just a little darker and a little greener and not quite so yellow green. This is going to be a difficult green to make with these colors. Your mileage may vary. It's going to depend on what colors you've got to work with. I remember now that one of my problems with this yellow was that it wasn't opaque enough. And so I'm going to put a little teeny tiny, if I can make it tiny, bit of white on here, because the thing we learned last time is white in a very little bit can be an opacifier for this. And so I'm trying to make my yellow more opaque so that it has a little bit more um, color fast, color staining properties so that it's strong enough to mix with my blue and get a little blue mixed in here to try to make green. And I'm going to go over the top of this again and see if I can get just a little bit stronger green in my green spot. And then I'm going to take a whole bunch more yellow and try to make a yellow green. So I'm going to drag a crap ton of yellow in here and mix it around. And then I'm going to drag even more yellow and mix it around in one edge of that puddle to try to make a yellow green and apply it in here, because it is so hard to make a yellow green that is yellow enough to be the intermediate step, the intermediate color, the intermediate step between yellow and green. So you can see that I had to use an enormous amount of yellow to make that yellow green, which now feels like a nice incremental step between yellow and green. I've got the yellow green kind of established there. It's not great, it's not perfect, but again, we're kind of fighting with student grade pigments, and we're just trying to make a color wheel only out of primary colors. So it's not perfect, but it's fun and it's possible. On the other half of my puddle over here, I'm going to bring in some blue. I'm going to mix it in and try to make my blue green. Blue green is easy to make. Blue green is like falling off a log here because it's pretty darn easy to mix yourself up a blue green and throw it into the blue green spot. The blue is really strong. The yellow is really weak. And so you have to use equivalent, not equal, but equivalent amounts to try to get the right mixing of colors to get that blue-green to happen. This is probably shows you how difficult color mixing can be, or at least that it's a skill and you have to work with it. You have to kind of practice it and kind of try to make it work here. As I was talking, I slipped and then I got a funny color. So I'm going to try to make this blue-green just a little bit bluer. It looks like my blue-green is a little too blue now. I might have to fix it. Now I've really made a mess. But I did want to show you what happens when you try to mix paint wet in a yeah, that's not going to work. I'm going to need more blue. Okay, so we're going to pull a little bit more blue back in here and even mix the blue in wet over the top of all of this to try to get my incremental color that I'm trying to get to, my intermediate color, so that I have a yellow, a green, a blue-green, and so that the step from blue-green to blue is not too big of a step, so that the step from yellow to yellow-green is not too big of a step, and that our green in the middle really feels like a true green. This green in the middle does not feel like a true green to me. The blue-green feels like a blue-green, but this green does not feel good to me. I'm not getting a good, happy feeling about this. Let me park my wet brush over here. Let me go find another color wheel that I've done previously so that we can compare our yellow green and our green. This green is a little darker, or at least it dried a little darker. I feel a little bit better about that. I did this color wheel with a different set of paints so that my yellow and my blue were possibly different pigments. And you can see that this blue is a little bit lighter than this blue. And this yellow is a little bit darker than this yellow. And so when this yellow and this blue got mixed together, it gave me this kind of green. And you can see that this green here is a different shade of green than this one. This one feels more olive to me. This one feels a little bit more like leafy green, like green grass green and that kind of thing. So sometimes we're fighting with the pigments that we buy and whether we've got higher quality or lower, student grade pigments that we're working with. But you can kind of see what we are trying to do here is teach a certain amount of discrimination, a certain kind of discernment to you guys so that you can see the subtle differences in the colors and the quality of the color. So the colors that I just mixed today, these greens, I'm not as happy with as I like. This green is a little bit more of a vivid green. This yellow green is more vivid and it's yellower than this one that I'm not going to touch because it's wet. And this blue green is feeling a heck of a lot more. I'm going to pull it up here so you can see this blue green on the right feels a lot more blue than the blue green on the left. And so this is the fight that we do trying to make a color wheel. And yet we get the overall effect. If we can get that overall effect, we're only trying to build a color wheel out of our 3 primary colors. And so that kind of completes the demonstration for you so you can see how to do a color wheel. This is a 10-point project. And so we don't have to kill ourselves making a perfect color wheel, but I want you guys to have the experience of building a color wheel from just your primary colors. I want you to photograph this with your phone, with your smartphone or digital camera. And I'd like you to try to do it in good lighting so that if you can take this outdoors and take it on a cloudy day, that gives you the most diffused light and you might get the truest sense of the colors possible. If you're taking this under, incandescent light, it's going to tend to make it a little bit rosy. If you take it under fluorescent lighting, it tends to make it a little on the blue side. And so the color cast can change on us depending on the light source. So I would like you to try to photograph this thing outside in sunlight, possibly on a cloudy day, because that way I can get the best sense of the colors in your color wheel. And upload the photograph to coursework for the color wheel project. And this is a 10-point project. So are there questions for me on this project? I'm going to come back to you guys now and show you my face again. So any questions, comments? Go ahead and unmute your mic if you are totally lost or would like to make a comment or a suggestion like how I can make this a more clear demonstration, not quite so confusing, because I would like to know how to do that too. And otherwise, we're going to be doing this over the weekend. I see things kind of dancing around in the participants list. Skylar is there. What's up?
Okay, so I don't have a question on the color wheel. I finished that, but on the other assignment,
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what to do there. I tried looking it up, and a lot of different like images came back. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you upload one yet, or are you still trying to get one done?
The color wheel?
No. I thought, were you referring to the graphic design project that you were
No,
having trouble with?
I uploaded one.
Oh, okay, good, fantastic. Then we're good. So you're talking about the color wheel. You're trying to come up with a color wheel?
So I finished the color wheel. It's right here. I finished that.
Yay, okay,
But
fantastic.
then the other paper that was also
The line blending paper?
yes, that
Okay,
one.
then you're way ahead of us because we're not there yet.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so hold on to that one, and we're going to do that next week. That's our next project, and I haven't even gotten there yet. So you're so good. You're way ahead of the game here. All right. So I will demonstrate that on Monday as we walk, through the next project. Good question. Sorry about the confusion. I was just trying to make it sure that you guys only had to come over here one time to pick up the templates. So I put both templates out for project 2 and project 3, and we'll get there when we get there. Good enough. I've been talking for 40 minutes, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to say much else that's going to make sense to us today. But gosh, we went through the first you know, several slides, first 4 pages of chapter 7. We reviewed the color wheel process and color mixing. And I did something else too that I can't remember now. Oh yeah, we even reviewed a graphic design project or two. So we've done a lot in a very short time today together. So if you still need to get a graphic design uploaded, please get that done over the weekend, because I have reopened that assignment. And the color wheel is open for us to finish up this weekend and get that uploaded. And when we come back on Monday, there's no Martin Luther King Day this Monday, so we'll actually have class Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and that's when I'm going to see you next for the line blending um, uh, demonstration for this project. So I hope everybody's been able to buy paint or has acrylic paint now, so you can get this project underway, and some of you have already done it, so that's fantastic. Have a good rest of your week and weekend, and I will see you again on Monday. So goodbye for now.